Okay, now leaving a key with the neighbor.
Okay, one of the other things that you can do while you're on vacation is if you have a neighbor that you feel comfortable with, leave him or her the key. Let them come into your home and change the lights occasionally. Change the timers on the lights. What you want to do is maybe move it from the den, move it to the kitchen, move it to the living room, move it to the bathroom, move it to the hallway. Give your home the appearance of every single night being different. And we cannot stress enough the importance of utilizing your neighbors and other people in your neighborhood. You live in a community close like that, you should take full advantage of everybody in the neighborhood to look out for each other and encourage your neighbors to call in to report people. If they see a suspicious van driving in a neighborhood where obviously you know the people at work in the daytime, don't be afraid to call the police and have us come out and check the people out. We'd much rather go out and find out it was a serviceman for somebody's washer and dryer than roll up and find out we have to take a burglary report to two angry citizens because their whole house has been ripped off.
Now, what if you are in your house, sound asleep, and somebody breaks in? What should you do?
Okay, we get this question an awful lot. Matter of fact, we get this question more than any others because people worry more about the confrontation than in actually keeping the burglar out. One thing you can do is if you're in the back of the house and you hear somebody coming in the front, the first thing you should do is get out of the house. You do not want to have actual contact with a burglar. You're cornering somebody. It's just like a cat. You get him in the corner, he's going to want to fight. A burglar, he comes in not to hurt you in most cases, but to get your goods. So if you hear him coming through the front door, you go out the back door. You only have a window in your room, you go out that window. You get out any way you can. But say you can't get out, what should you do? Well, you should make it as inaccessible to get to where you're at. In other words, if you're going to be in a room, lock the door and make noise. I've heard a lot of people do something like this. They'll say, and even when they're home, they'll go, "John, get the shotgun." So in other words, you're in that room by yourself, but the burglar or whoever else that may be in the house with you, they don't know if you have a shotgun. They don't know if John's there, but they know if they go through that door, there's a good chance they may be shot. So as long as you can keep the upper hand where the burglar doesn't know what you're doing, then you're fairly safe in your house. Of course, you should always call the police, whether you're forced to stay in a house, if there's a phone in the room, or if you go next door.
What about your valuables? Not a lot of people can afford to put maybe the one diamond ring they have in a safety deposit box. Should you spread your valuables out through the house?
That's not a real good idea to start doing things like that. Probably the most important thing to do on valuables, such we're talking about jewelry in this instance, is the first thing to do is to lay them out on your dining room table. Everything that's too small to mark by our electric engraver, lay them out on the table, take a photograph of these items. When the photograph is developed, place it in the safe deposit box or wherever you keep your personal papers. And it's so easy for us to come in, say that something does disappear and it's a family brooch that's been in your family for 75 or 100 years. Certainly for you to describe it to me and for me to take a verbal description and put it down on paper so that another detective in the burglary department has to locate that piece of jewelry throughout the town, it's almost a lost cause. But if you give us a photograph of that heirloom, it makes it so much easier for us to identify it. Using silver. A lot of Atlantans' finest silver is being taken, and we find that it's melted down right away. Make sure that you take photographs of silver patterns. Other items that we call quick sale items, of course, are like our TVs, cameras, power tools, anything like that that's in the home that can be taken real quick should be engraved with your Social Security number. The Social Security number can be registered with the local police department. It goes on the computer, and if any officer throughout the state of Georgia picks up this piece of property, he can feed that the Social Security number into the computer, and it will tell us who it belongs to. It also helps you to get your property returned. We have a lot of property that'll never be returned back to the people because there's no markings on it, no one has recorded their serial numbers, and there's no way to positively identify the property.
Now that moves into another area, people buying hot goods. They think they're getting bargains. Your advice for people who do even think about buying stolen goods?
Okay, what most people don't realize that we would never have a burglary if it wasn't for honest people that would buy stolen merchandise. The honest people make for burglary. When you do buy stolen merchandise, you're also committing a crime. It's called possession of stolen merchandise. So you are committing a felony. The only person you're going to be hurting in reality is yourself when you buy stolen property. That's one reason we have such a system as Operation ID. Usually when somebody buys stolen property, somebody will come up to them them on the street and they'll say, I've got a good deal for you, $500 TV set for $200. Well, if there's an engraved number on that TV set, the person will say, I see that number, I know it's stolen. Without that engraved number, they'll say, maybe it's stolen, maybe it's not, I'll take a chance. So anytime you take property, you are breaking the law, and you are hurting yourself, because that just puts one more burglar on the street that may be breaking into your house next time.
The only thing other thing I need are alarms, and I think we can come back and get Kit on another day.
Okay,
Since
we'll
you all have to
get Kit.
quit.
We'll arrange it for you next
Yeah.
week, where you can come
Yeah.
back and Kit will
What's
talk
Kit's
to
last name?
Kit. His last name is Carson. Kit, I'm serious as I can be.
Argument or just by mistake. We were just talking to a gentleman from Georgia Power today that almost shot his 2-year-old daughter because he thought it was a burglar coming in.
And we find out also, too, that people that like to keep guns in dressers right by the bed, in a situation like that, if you feel you have to have a weapon, put it somewhere away from your dresser so that you have to get out of bed, you're forced to get up. It clears much more clear feelings and senses to operate the weapon, but we do not advocate any type of these actions unless you're just absolutely forced beyond, your own.
This guy told me, this really help you, and we'll always be here. We'll be here every month to do it, and I have to call.
It's a lease system,
Well, I wish they tried to.
but they're gonna have to have a warrant to get it back.
Yeah, no,
It is a lease system. And I charge you to install it, again, I have to go get it.
I can see Channel 5 though getting a picture of Monica getting let off in jail when War Ross comes out with a warrant.
Any indication what the type of news that Channel 2 puts out, we know that you do a pretty good job. It's a mess. As you can see, it probably takes all they can do to keep up with this stuff. Everything needs to be tagged and marked. That's two, and she's doing all right. Doing real well over there. Everybody just says what a real supervisor she turned into over there. That typing paid off.
The goods are kept for 60 days, and if nobody shows up to claim them, then what happens to them? Well, they go to the old Haas auction, held every 90 days. The next one will be December 8th at the Civic Center. If the goods aren't claimed in 60 days, let me start all over again. If the goods aren't claimed in 60 days, they don't just sit here and gather dust. They become part of the old Haas auction. It's held every 3 months. The next one will be December 8th at the Civic Center.
A great nut fruit.
I ran for a junior class president. A friend of mine
Stand by, please. Stand by, please.
sophomore class president.
Hot.
He means that we're getting ready to get
We
started.
went over the speaking stand to.
When a man comes to your door and says he's selling insurance, can you be sure he's not a burglar?
Well, there's no way to really tell who's at your front door, but there are precautions that you can take each time someone does come to your door. I think the first and most important thing is to never open your door right away. Just don't walk up to your front door and immediately bring it open. If you have a peephole inside your front door, always make sure that you take advantage of this type of thing by looking through it, identifying the subject, and then if you don't know the subject, talk to him through the door. We don't care if you have to carry on a full conversation right through your door. Ask the person who he represents. If you see a power truck outside your home, don't be afraid to ask the person for his ID card. Every one of the employees from the major corporations in our city carry identification cards, and they're more than happy to display these cards for you so that you can tell that they actually represent who they say they do.
And what if they have a business card?
Okay, the first thing to do is when they give you a business card and you're going to check out this number, don't call the number that they have on the card. A lot of times burglars work in teams and with partners, and they'll have a partner sitting at a pay phone or at the phone in their apartment. You call that number and you say, gee, Mr. Johnson, do you have a serviceman in our area? And the first thing that man's going to say is, why, sure, don't be afraid. We're out there servicing everything in your neighborhood, and it's quite okay. You look in the telephone book, you look in your address book, get the proper number from the corporation, and make sure that you're calling the right organization to identify those people outside your door.
Is there such a thing as a profile of a burglar? I mean, somebody who looks a certain way, or should you be wary of any person who comes to the door?
Okay, you can't really tell by the way the person looks whether he's a burglar or whether he's just an honest businessman. We found that most burglars fall in the range of ages between 15 and 25, but this isn't true in all cases, so you never know what exactly a burglar is going to look like.
But he could be dressed in a business suit.
Oh, sure, he could be dressed in a business suit. Number one thing he may be doing in this type of outfit is to see what the neighborhood looks like, or to case the neighborhood, to see what he likes, the easy targets, the hard targets. He may just knock on the door, see if somebody's going to answer, to check and see if anybody's home during the daytime. You know, daytime is when most of our residential burglaries occur, when nobody's at home. A burglar really doesn't want to go through the trouble of having a person inside the house where there may be contact with them. What they want to do is break into a house, get what they can get. It usually takes no more than 3 minutes, and get out and be gone.
Now, when they break in, do they normally come through the front door, the back door, or a window, and how can you prevent it?
Most of the burglaries or break-ins occur through the front door. You can prevent it by having the proper fixtures on your door. I think the first and most important thing to start with is the construction of your door. You want a solid core door. Now, this is a cross-section of a solid core door, and as you can see, it is completely filled inside with a fiber. It adds a lot of strength to the door. Some doors have panels on the inside, and these type of things, they're not adequate for putting on a good deadbolt. You may have a $60 lock on your door, but it only takes a quick foot to knock through the panel. So first thing to start with is a solid core door. The next thing to move into, of course, is your locking hardware. Most doors, when they're installed in an apartment or home, they're of the spring latch variety. And that's the little latch where you can just take your finger and push it in, and it's done by a spring. It's called the key in the knob lock because the key goes in the knob to open it. It's also called the credit card lock. And I'm sure that anybody who's watched television programs has seen the burglar walk up to the door, put the credit card in the slot, and gain entrance just like he had the key. This will prevent that. The one thing that will prevent that is your deadbolt. And this is a deadbolt up at the top. It cannot be pushed in. That's where it gets its name, deadbolt. Now, it should come out at least 1 inch from the throw of the door. This prevents a burglar from putting in a pry tool or a pry bar and spreading the door jamb. Most door jambs will spread close to a ½ an inch with a bar, but they will not spread a full inch. This will give you all the security that you need. Now, there are two types of deadbolts. There is a single cylinder deadbolt, which this one is. It operates by a thumb latch on the inside of the door. The other type of deadbolt is a double cylinder. A double cylinder should be used, and that will have a cylinder on the inside and the outside, it should be used where glass is anywhere around 18 inches from the door. That prevents the burglar from tapping out the glass on the side of the door and just merely reaching right around and turning the knob and walking right in. So double cylinders can be extremely effective in preventing these types of crimes, easily prevented crimes.
But you can't use those on windows, so what do you do for windows, Officer Banda?
Okay, the easiest thing to do for windows, it's kind of hard to explain without a window here, but the simplest thing to do on most double hung windows, this is the type of window where you unlock it and slide straight up. Where the two pieces of wood come together, if you'll drill a hole through the first window, on the inside, halfway through the second window, and stick a nail in the hole. This way, the window stays still. A lot of people get the misconception that windows are broken and people climb through broken glass, but this isn't true. When windows are used to gain entrance, usually with a pry bar, they'll pry the window up and gain entrance, or they might break the glass and reach around and unlock, but a burglar seldom goes through broken glass. There's too much chance that he may be hurt. Also, the broken glass may be seen by a neighbor. In other words, a neighbor goes by your house, sees broken glass, they may report it. So if a window's broken into, it's usually pried up. If a nail is used to secure your window, by having two windows where they can't move apart, and this can also be used on your sliding glass doors, then your break-in usually will not occur through glass.
Now, when you keep talking about windows and doors, but I think if a fire breaks out in your house, that could be a problem.
Okay, one thing that's very important about your deadbolt lock is on your double cylinder lock. In other words, if you have a cylinder on both the inside and the outside, we've seen a lot of people killed in fires because they could not get outside their house. If your house does have a double cylinder lock, your key's on the inside, and there's no glass around it, while you're at home, we always recommend you to keep the key inside the lock. Therefore, when you leave, you can just turn the key and get out. If there is glass around it, you should place a key in a place close to your door where you can get the key. Everybody knows where it's at. Your family should go through a fire drill to know where the key's at. Always put it in a low spot too. In a fire, smoke rises. You can't see up high, so it should be in a place very low. But if you can't get out a door, and this happens a lot too, people get scared. Oh my gosh, my front door's locked, I can't get out. Well, they don't think if they just pick up a chair, they can throw it through a window and go out through that window. You know, people worry so much about breaking the glass, but it's going to be on fire and it may be gone anyway. So don't worry about breaking that glass. If you can't get out the door, pick up a chair, break the window, and jump out.
Now, what about dogs? You know, some people, they say, well, I'm not going to put those locks on my doors. They're too expensive, and I'm not going to do that to my windows. I'll just get me a good dog.
Good idea. Anything that you can do in by the way of letting someone know that there is someone or something in your home is a great idea. We talked a little bit earlier about the story of, we had a stewardess in the city of Atlanta that was broken into twice. Well, she got the idea to get her little tape recorder, headed to the city pound, and the man was nice enough at the pound to get her a tape recording of some real vicious barking dogs. So the young lady took the recording back to her apartment, and any time that she was unsure who was at her door, on came her recording, and she didn't have too many visitors that were uninvited because they just weren't going to face those vicious dogs. So they can be extremely effective. And again, anything like that that you can do is good for your home protection.
How valuable are burglar alarms?
Burglar alarms, well, it depends on the home you're in. In other words, if you're in a moderately ranged home, well, you wouldn't have the money to put in a burglar alarm, or a good burglar alarm that would be receptive or good to you. If you live in a more expensive home, higher income home, well, possibly it could help you, but burglar alarms are like any other type of defense. There's no perfect defense. There are ways they can be circumvented. Any burglar alarm can be broken through, any lock can be broken through. But the point we go under is that most people that break in homes, we think up to 95% of the burglars will not be able to break in through a deadbolt lock or an alarm system. So alarm systems are good in their place, but there's no system that's going to be 100% useful in preventing a burglary.
Now, how can you make your house look lived in when you work at night or if you go away on vacation?
Okay, this is probably one of the most important things, especially when you go on vacation. I think the key to the whole thing is first to get to know your neighbors. Make sure you take advantage of the people that live next door to you, the people that live across the street. Let them know what your vacation schedule is going to be, because it's probably going to happen. You're going to be able to look out for them when they go on vacation. Get someone to pick up your mail. Cancel your newspaper delivery. Make sure that your lawn is mowed if it's in the summertime. If it's in the wintertime, then you really don't have to worry about your yard like that. Place timers. Use timers all throughout your house. When you're using a timer, the first time you go on vacation or if you go away for a short weekend, leave the one in the hall and the living room on. The next time you go, switch them, alternate them. Never get into the pattern of using the same timers in the same places when you're out of town, because you're going to be setting up a pattern and the burglars are going to pick this pattern up. A lot of people like to use the idea of using a timer in the den where they normally sit to watch TV in the evenings and turn it off, say at 11 or 11:30 after the news is over, and then move it into the bedroom and leave the light on in there for another couple hours, maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock, and then have it. And you're giving the appearance that your home is lived in. People are moving from one area to another. Make sure you draw the curtains, leave everything closed, because people will not be able to come up to the windows and look in on you at night. You know, when you're inside a lighted room and it's dark on the outside, you're extremely visible, where outside it's very difficult to see. So these are some things that can be extremely helpful to you. Another good idea too is if you have neighbors that are extremely good friends or close friends to you, leave them a key and let them come in and alternate the timers for you every couple days. And this will really work good, because then anybody that is casing the neighborhood. What's the address right here?
1327 Boulevard, Lorraine.
That would be 1327 Boulevard, Lorraine. Right on the alarm ordinance. How about it?
Ask Sergeant Dean about it.
Stand by.
And it is noisy.
Stand by. Open.
Exactly.
And get right out.
Right out. And you've
Portable
got,
TV, boy, they love portable TV.
you also got a driveway in the Make it. But you know, that's it. If everybody's getting ripped off like this, and people are, and again, those salesmen, they prey on your apprehensions as a.
And my phone is back on to the regular thing.
Okay, so it's already called.
Yeah.